Well, it's still morning. Good morning, Justin. How are you?
It's afternoon somewhere. I'm doing wonderful today. How are you?
And it's nighttime here with my Chevy Equinox, I think
And
is
I
what I got behind me. I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
and I'm on Mars, so you know couldn't be better.
And you've got a Tesla Cybertruck behind you. Is that what I see?
Yes, the fictional Tesla Cybertruck. Fictional for now.
Should be delivered this year. Should be delivered this year.
Nope, they pushed it back to next year. Sorry to break the news to you, Zach.
Let's
You
talk about electric trucks, Justin. Let's dive right into it. There were a lot of headlines actually yesterday from Ford. Plus, there's now there's quite a few electric trucks that are eventually going to be on the market. You shared a stat with me the other day that was mind-boggling. What was it? It was like how many have been reserved or ordered and how many are actually on the road?
Yes, so Ford, GM, and the major legacy automakers, they release their official reservation numbers for their upcoming electric trucks. Tesla, we have to kind of do some guessing, but as far as we can tell, there's about 1.5 million reservations in the books for electric trucks. And Zach, you know how many are actually on the road here in late April 2022?
I thought you were going to say in West Virginia, and I was going to say I have no clue.
Yeah, that would be zero, but
I don't know, 100,000,
3,000.
3,000.
So there's 3,000 electric trucks on American roads right now. 1.5 million reservations in the books. Something's got to happen, right? Well, yesterday Ford had a really big day, and as Jim Farley himself said it, quote, America's real transition to EVs starts now. Now, why would Jim Farley say that? Zach, what are the top 3 selling vehicles in the US?
Probably pickup trucks. I don't know, F-150, Silverado. I don't know, name another one.
Precisely. F-Series trucks sold 700,000 units last year. The Ram 1500 series sold 560,000. Silverado 500,000. So, yeah, you could kind of say that Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford, he's got some weight behind what he's saying. If America's really going to transition to EVs by 2035, like they say, electric trucks are going to have to become a mainstream thing. And yesterday, Ford announced that not only did they start deliveries of the F-150 Lightning to dealerships, they also have a surprise for us, which is another electric truck. Now, we only know 2 things about this second Ford electric truck so far. The first thing is it's not an F-150 Lightning. And the second thing is that it's next gen. That's the term that the spokesperson used. Next gen. We know 2 things about this truck. I guess actually there's a third. It's going to be built at Ford's Blue Oval electric vehicle factory that is going up in Tennessee. So another Appalachian-made electric vehicle, which I'll be very proud of myself being here in West Virginia. But Ford's really going all in on EVs, and can we blame them? They have over 200,000 reservations for the F-150 Lightning alone.
My question though, Justin, becomes, and Learning Fast here says electric Ranger, question mark, could be. My question though is how do you make any of these affordable? Like that just boggles my mind. Like, and I guess pickup trucks in general, I'm trying to think back to the latest Cox data on average new truck transaction price. I think it was like $54,000 is the average new truck transaction price. So maybe you don't even need an affordable EV pickup, but and heck, maybe an EV pickup actually identifies with a different demographic than traditional pickup owners. I'm not sure.
Well, we know it's no secret that the legacy automakers, like especially Ford and GM, are trying to catch up to Tesla. And let's think about what strategies legacy automakers might have at their disposal that startups like, well, I don't know if you can even call Tesla a startup anymore, but Rivian and others, right? They're not able to dive right into economies of scale. Tesla would have been bankrupt in 2010 if they did that. They started
Yeah.
small, low volume, high margin vehicles. Well, Ford, they're going a different route. They're going to be trying to do high volume sales, slimmer profit margins. But if they can sell an electric truck for honestly 60 or 70,000, that might be very compelling if you can power your house for up to 5 days with it, like they say, and save $300 a month on fuel costs if you're a commuter with a truck. A lot of truck buyers might be willing to give it a try for 60 to 70,000 if that's the savings and cool bragging right party tricks that they can claim once they switch to an electric truck.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Ford announced no more 2022 reservations are going to be granted, or orders are going to be granted for the 2022 model year of the Lightning. You're going to have to wait until next year, correct?
Yeah, and Ford's original production plans for the F-150 Lightning were 40,000 per year for the next few years. They've since upped that to 150,000 a year. That is a huge increase. That's what, like 350% increase? That's crazy.
Matt here in the chat saying Ford also said they will continue producing ICE cars until 2040. Not sure that's a good strategy if you look at how EVs are taking over China. I didn't see that. That's super interesting. So they said ICE until 2040. That puts a little bit of a deadline here on the dealership model, because Ford Model E, no inventory, you have to order it. Pretty interesting. Ford's been more aggressive than the other automakers in terms of putting timelines against the transition to EV and how that'll impact how you buy cars, where you go to get cars, things like that. That I didn't know that. I didn't say that. That's pretty damn interesting.
And it's going to be very fascinating to see just how quickly Americans adopt EVs, because we just talked about the dealership model. Well, dealers get a lot of their revenue from service, right? Now, as far as we know, electric vehicles require less service, but you're still going to need those highly trained and qualified professionals at the dealership to do most of that electric vehicle maintenance, especially when these automakers are offering longer and longer warranties, because they want to make sure that consumers are feeling comfortable with the switch to an electric vehicle. You can't work on it in your garage, at least not safely. So you're probably going to need the dealership to work on it. So it'll be very interesting to see as Ford Blue and Ford Model E battle it out into the future, how that's going to really affect Ford's business model overall. But there's some
Yeah,
other
really will.
electric trucks we should talk about, right, Zach?
All right, yeah. So let's dive into it. What are the other electric trucks I'm gonna say are on the market, even though they're not necessarily on the market? What are the other electric trucks we should be aware of? And I want to put you on the spot. Which one do you think is the best?
Oh, I can answer that. Okay, we'll get there. We'll save that for later. So,
Baby
as
steps.
of yesterday, there are officially 3 electric trucks on the market in the United States. 3. Now, the first one was very ironically the GMC Hummer EV. That 9,000-pound crab walking tank was the first electric truck to market. It beat the Cybertruck, it beat the F-150 Lightning, it even beat Rivian by a few months.
Justin, can we
Now,
just take a second to it's 2022 and Hummer trucks are selling for 275 to $300,000 on the resale market. It just things don't compute. Sorry, I just had to interject. That just feels off to me.
yeah, you could buy 6 Hyundai Ioniq 5s for that much money.
That's nuts.
Yeah, and they're oh, by the way, in 2021, General Motors sold 1 Hummer EV. That's how many they sold in all of 2021. Now, estimates are there's about 30 that have been sold. So, General Motors has really been falling behind since they've had the Chevy Bolt recall. Now they've got the GMC Hummer EV. They're working on the Silverado EV, which we'll talk about next. Equinox EV, but it's just interesting. Is the Hummer EV even worth making if you're only going to sell 30 in 6 months? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so Hummer EV on the market. What else?
Rivian. So the Rivian R1T, it's been the darling of electric vehicle outdoorsmen and women for the past few years. And after 3 years of reservations, it finally came out, and then they jacked up the price by 20%. So it's not an affordable truck. If you're looking for a $50,000 truck, this isn't it. The Rivian R1T, it does get up to 315 miles of range. It has decent efficiency, but what it's known for is its off-road capabilities. So it has been proven off the road on really rough terrain, but it's going to cost you $80,000 to $120,000. That's a lot of money. I don't know about you, Zach, but to me it is.
I don't feel like spending that much money on anything, let alone a pickup truck. But it fits into the theme of expensive electric pickup trucks. That's for sure.
Yeah, and Rivian seems to really have excelled at branding for what they've been targeting, which is people who like to, I guess, wear North Face jackets and go hiking in the weekend. And have high enough income to afford a $120,000 truck. But hey, I guess it's working for them. They've sold about 2,000 so far. So that's the most common electric truck on American roads today is the Rivian R1T.
Wow. Have you ever seen one on the road?
I saw one, and I'll say it was bigger than I thought it would be. I thought it would be more like a a Toyota Tacoma size. It was
Yeah.
larger than that. I would say it was in between a Tacoma and an F-150 with a very muscular stance that honestly did look like it would be great off-road.
Yeah, I remember seeing one. I saw one in Red Rock when I was in Las Vegas, maybe 2 months ago now, and I was like, "Okay, that looks pretty cool." But it looks like what's interesting here is, and we've got the Cybertruck behind you. There's one automaker who said the truck of the future is going to look nothing like the truck of the present. When you look at the Rivian out on the road, it looks like a pickup truck, and I think that actually appeals to a lot of people.
Yeah, pickup truck with really cool LEDs, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, what's the third one that's out on the market?
Well, it's the F-150 Lightning as of yesterday. Ford sent its first shipments of the F-150 Lightning to dealers, presumably for reservation holders, right? Just yesterday, and that's where they had that big announcement about the mysterious next Ford electric truck, which honestly, I agree with Learning Fast, who said it was most likely going to be a Ranger. Now, I think Ford could really capitalize off of electrifying the Ranger because it's a smaller truck. And if you include even just the same battery technology in a smaller truck platform, you should be able to get even more range. And if the F-150 Lightning is rated for about 300 miles on a charge, maybe an electric Ranger could get over 350.
Yeah, that'd be pretty significant. It really would. The pipeline for electric trucks is pretty full, though. Obviously, the Silverado EV is in the pipeline, and you've got to imagine that other automakers are thinking about like, is there a Ram 1500 EV in the pipeline?
It's on the way, but it's still quite a whiles away. So we're going to be looking at 2024, but they have announced there's one in the pipeline. We don't have any pictures of it yet. That's literally all we know.
Which one gets you most excited? Any of the three that are currently in the market, or any that are coming in the future?
The F-150 Lightning and the Silverado EV get me most excited. So the Silverado EV will be out in about a year, and it's going to be marketed towards the same price point as the F-150 Lightning. We're going to be looking at like $60,000. I like that one because it charges at up to 350 kilowatts, which is twice as fast as the F-150 Lightning. That's pretty fast. They both offer vehicle to load, so you can power your home. You can even power another electric vehicle with those two trucks. Pretty
That's
crazy.
pretty damn cool. Jumping a battery of the future looks a hell of a lot different than it does right now.
Yeah, but I'm a big fan of the Silverado EV because of that faster charging speed. It also has a pass-through bed where you can open up the wall right behind where the rear passengers sit and extend the bed by a few extra feet. The F-150 Lightning doesn't have that.
That's pretty damn cool. And you've got here from Learning Fast saying the frunk in the F-150 is huge. What a time to be in live when we have frunks in our pickups. That'll definitely be, I'm sure people will find a very good use for all that space.
Yeah, and that's not something I have. I have a tiny little frunk in my Hyundai Ioniq 5, but yeah, the Silverado EV and F-150 Lightning's frunks, it looks like you could fit a whole Mini Cooper up there.
We'll have to let my dad know. All right, let's talk a little bit. GM announced their quarterly earnings yesterday and also a few other bits and pieces. Something about a heat pump that I'm supposed to be interested in. Justin, please educate me.
So this is kind of funny. It's an interesting side story. GM claims to be, well, they've actually already patented a new heat pump. Now, why would GM need a heat pump for its electric vehicles? Honestly, it's because they're so inefficient.
Really?
Heat pumps, this particular heat pump that GM has coming with their Ultium platform, they claim that it can increase efficiency by about 10%. That's a big deal if the Hummer EV that they just made has horrible, horrible efficiency. We're talking miles per gallon equivalent of like 47 miles per gallon equivalent. That's bad. My Hyundai Ioniq 5 is more like 100 miles per gallon equivalent. The Rivian, 70 miles per gallon equivalent. So if you're looking at a really inefficient electric truck, I would want a heat pump too to increase that range by 10%.
Which is then ironic because the Ultium platform is what Honda's collaborating with them for. Like, I don't understand it, man. I don't understand why people are betting on GM. But hey, more power to them. If the heat pump's going to save the day, I'll be very surprised.
Well, what's fascinating to me is that we're going to be looking at right around the time that the Ultium platform is getting going with the all of the GM lineup being electrified and the Honda Prologue SUV coming along and piggybacking off of the Ultium platform. Right around that time in like 2024, 2025, guess what else is going to show up? Solid state batteries.
So
We don't even have
you'll have a brand new suite of new EV trucks that are probably going to have drastically different performance and efficiency standards, and then you're going to have all these first generation EV trucks. All the while, I can't wait to see what happens to ICE truck prices, used ICE truck prices. Because if you watch the YAA channel, you know that used truck prices, used SUV prices, gas guzzler prices are plummeting on the used car market right now. That's a pretty interesting mix when you start to think about when's the right time to buy one of these and what to buy, what's going to be most cost efficient and obviously, efficient for fueling as well. 2025 is kind of going to be that inflection point in pickup truck land. It seems like.
Yeah, and unfortunately for electric truck enthusiasts, the main reason for that is the lack of supply right now. Because if these automakers could be cranking out electric trucks in 2022, 2023, I'm sure they'd be all over the road because we've seen hundreds of thousands of reservations. Uh, General Motors says that they have about 120,000 reservations for the Silverado EV. So it's really demand outweighing supply at this point, and we'll see how the chip shortage and international conflicts can affect that. And in addition to battery supplies, because we had Rivian CEO RJ Scaringe saying just the other day he anticipates that battery shortages will be the new chip shortage in about 5 years' time. We'll see if he's right.
That's exciting.
We haven't
What's
talked about
Toyota
the
doing?
Cybertruck yet.
I want to talk about the Cybertruck, but I also like, is Toyota going to do a fully electric Tacoma or Tundra? I mean, people absolutely love the Toyota brand. Like, what is there anything in like any rumors on that front?
They are, but we know nothing about it yet. So about a month ago, Toyota had a fancy CGI image on one of their advertisements that included about a dozen new electrified vehicles, and one of them was clearly an electric Tacoma. And I think that would be a huge seller. I mean, personally, that's the size truck that I would go for myself. But it looks like 2024 is the soonest we're going to see anything electric from Toyota when it comes to the trucks. They just have the BZ4X out, but that's honestly not getting me too excited about Toyota's electric future with the slow charging, not so good range. So hopefully they step up their game for the truck.
And I know we're going to talk Cybertruck, but we're talking Toyota, which leads me to want to at least bring up the Subaru Solterra. We got pricing on the Solterra the other day, and I knew you were underwhelmed by that price point and those specs.
Yeah, honestly, I was quite disappointed because we are a Subaru household, believe it or not. We have a Subaru Forester, and my wife was like, maybe we can get that awesome Subaru electric vehicle. Well, guess what? It starts at $46,000, and for $46,000, you have to sit around at a charger for 50 minutes every time you drive 180 miles on the highway. You you only get up to 225 miles of range, and that's in ideal conditions, honestly. These are not good specs for a 2023 EV. This is like 2017 stuff. I don't know what the compelling, like, why would anyone buy the Solterra EV? Is it because of the Subaru brand or maybe the extra ground clearance? That's about all I can think of.
Maybe they partnered with GM on that one and we just haven't heard that. Let's talk about the Cybertruck behind you. And then there's the chat's blown up. So we're getting a few questions from the chat that I want to pull up. But what is going on with the Cybertruck? Like, do you have any faith that we're going to see one on Earth? Because obviously there's one on Mars behind you.
Yeah, I think it will happen, but it's already been pushed back about 3 times. And now we're looking at a 2023 date for starting production. That's the truck that apparently has over 1 million reservations. How are they going to fulfill 1 million reservations if they keep delaying production? I'm not quite sure. But as far as we know, they are working on making it compliant with regulations, because if you have a gigantic stainless steel truck driving around on city streets, I'm sure there's a pedestrian safety issue or two that has to be
Oh my God.
considered. But there have been updated pre-production spec Cybertrucks driving around Giga Austin Tesla's latest factory. Now, when it was announced in 2019, I don't know if you remember, but Elon Musk or someone else, I think their chief designer, Franz Hoffenhausen, he swung a sledgehammer at the window of the Cybertruck and it shattered. So ever since that day in 2019, prices were announced at just under 40,000. I think 39.9 starting for the Cybertruck. Zach, you and I both know that's not going to happen. They actually removed
No.
pricing from the website. There is no way that they're going to have a truck starting at 39,000. Honestly, personal opinion, I think it's probably going to start around 50,000 for a rear wheel drive variant. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing most Cybertrucks selling for over 70,000.
Yeah, and then you've got to imagine the resale market immediately after it comes out. It's going to be like the Hummer EV. Like we'll go on Bring a Trailer or Cars and Bids, and you'll see the first Cybertruck, and it's going to sell for $250,000. Like it feels very logical because there's people absolutely love that brand for the same reason people will buy the Subaru Solterra. They just feel attached to it. That's my guess there.
I mean, but check it out behind me. Doesn't it kind of look like the DeLorean of trucks?
We're going to go to the chat on that note. Matt says here, instead of solid state batteries, I'm more excited about Nanotech Energy graphene batteries. That tech looks very promising. Do you know anything about that, Justin? Curious.
I'll be honest, Zach and Matt, I don't know anything about that, but please elucidate. Yeah, tell us more. We'd love to learn more in the chat.
Definitely. Learning Fast says Kia will have a cool 3-row electric SUV in about 1 to 2 years. If they haven't seen the success they've had with the Telluride and don't translate that into an EV, I'd be very surprised. As Justin, why are we've got another comment here looking for a Ford Expedition in an EV. Like the moment manufacturers recognize that not everyone wants their EV to be like the Ioniq 5, it doesn't have to be a spaceship. They just want a more cost-effective Escape, Expedition, whatever, like put it in. I think they'll sell a lot.
Yeah, I think that the only reason they haven't done that yet is they've had so much success with the status quo. They're selling so many Suburbans, Tahoes, Expeditions, Explorers. They don't really have to worry about their sales, right? But we do know that an electric Tahoe is on the way.
Yeah.
We know that Ford plans on electrifying its whole lineup within the next decade. So I'm sure it's coming, but I wouldn't bet on it before 2025.
Definitely. Lindy says, how about the Lexus RZ? What do you know about the RZ, Justin?
Now, if I'm not mistaken, that is the Lexus version of the BZ4X.
Exactly, yeah.
And what we do know about the BZ4X, the first reviews and test drives are out. You can check them out on YouTube. Unfortunately, I have not had the chance myself yet. But what we know is that the BZ4X is an easy-to-drive electric crossover. It's what you'd expect from Toyota as far as build quality and comfort. However, it has the same infrastructure underneath the hood as the Subaru Solterra. So what that means is you end up having not so good charging speeds. You're looking at 100 kilowatt to 150 kilowatt charging speeds, and you're looking at range of up to 230 miles. I believe the front wheel drive version of the Toyota BZ4X goes about 250. So for the Lexus, you'd be looking at similar figures, but probably better styling. Maybe not so much plastic cladding like the Toyota has.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe they'll put one of those clocks in the middle. Like,
yeah. There
you go. John says here they don't have the production capacity to manufacture batteries in mass for EVs. He's also asking, are there going to be enough batteries for all these new cars? Probably not. And I think that hits on what RJ Scaringe, Rivian CEO, was saying. It's like the next chip shortage is a battery shortage. What's your take on that? Do you think that there's some efficacy there, Justin?
Honestly, I agree with you, John. Especially in 2022, there is definitely not enough batteries to make all these plans come to reality, to bring them to fruition. What we see is Tesla, even in some cases, thinking about buying up land to be able to mine their own battery raw materials, cutting out the middlemen. We may see automakers start to do really weird things, especially in their collaborations with some of the battery makers. For example, many automakers work with LG Chem. We've got CATL out of China. These big collaborations are going to have to start to get creative if they're going to be making enough batteries for all of these EVs. And that might include mining your own raw materials just to fulfill the demand.
Yeah, honestly, that was going to be one of the questions I asked you. Like, what are the other companies that we should be looking at their quarterly earnings and the news stories about them that are the leading indicators for what's going on in the battery world. You just named two of them, LG Chem and what was the other one, CATL?
Yeah, CATL is one of the largest battery manufacturers in the world right now. They supply batteries to Lucid. Lucid gets their batteries from a few different places, including LG Chem, but Tesla, that's where I was trying to go with this. Tesla needs so many batteries that they source from various companies, LG Chem, CATL. They're starting to make their own 4680 battery form factor. So, I mean, there's an infinite number of battery makers getting into the game, and we're starting to see more production here in the United States, which we've seen since the COVID pandemic and now with the Ukraine crisis. Honestly, there's some wisdom to building locally. So if United States based manufacturers can bring that production into America, that might be more stability for the future of EV production.
We became familiar with companies like TSMC and ASML, and the ones that you're naming here are the names that we're gonna, if you're in the know, you're gonna be looking at what they're doing. Question here from Bahamian Lily. Curious on how stable the batteries are in tropical climates where temps feel like triple digits. We have quite a few Teslas here in the Bahamas, but I wonder how stable the batteries really are in tropical climates where temps feel like they're in the triple digits. Heat, I'm sure that plays a role in charge and keeping it on in the battery. Cold obviously does as well. But what do you make of that, Justin? What do you think?
So the batteries are perfectly stable. Whenever they engineer these batteries, they engineer them under various conditions to make sure that there's not going to be any kind of safety issue, no thermal runaway. They're not going to just burst into flames. So don't worry about stability in those climates. However, in the Bahamas, which is a beautiful, beautiful place, you do need to understand that in the heat, efficiency will be a little bit less than you would be expecting. So if your Tesla is rated for 330 miles on a charge, if you're driving around in 95-degree weather, you're more likely going to get 280 miles on a charge. But cold weather affects batteries to a greater extent than hot weather. So consider yourself lucky if you live in the tropics.
Learning Fast here says the BZ4X from Toyota won't even get the tax credit. So that one is going to be really expensive.
It will. The BZ4X does get the tax credit. The only electric vehicles that currently do not are any made by General Motors and Tesla, because they've exceeded the 200,000 sale cap. If Toyota sells a lot more quickly, then they'd also run into that limit, but not yet. They will qualify.
Well said, well said. Also from Learning Fast, Fisker is just vaporware, like the Cybertruck right now, because we had Matt in the chat saying that Fisker has an SUV that'll be sub $40,000. The Fisker Ocean SUV looks nice and starts in the lower 40s, not sub 40, but in the lower 40s. Maybe we'll see that someday.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of what Fisker says they're doing, but is it vaporware? All I can say is we've seen more Fisker Ocean pre-production prototypes in person than we've seen Cybertrucks. So at least there's that.
and yes, Learning Fast is right here. They will run out of tax credits soon because of hybrids. Okay, that's a good point. Because under the existing EV tax credits, it's also 200,000 hybrids or EV vehicles.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Toyota has sold quite a few RAV4 Prime plug-in hybrids. So
Yep.
Learning Fast, that's a good point. A lot of Prime, plug-in Prime, RAV4.
Yep.
Prime. Yep.
And then we got some guesses in the chat for what the Cybertruck will eventually cost. 100,000 from Michael Stewart. Learning Fast says at least $80,000. I gotta say, Justin, I think they're probably closer than you and I were saying, around 50 or 60,000. I think 80, 100 probably is where it ends up.
Yeah, and if we're talking vaporware, by the way, what about the Tesla Roadster next generation? Do you know why they've been so slow to bring that car to production? It's because they had a referral program a few years ago where if you reached a certain number of referrals to get people to buy Teslas with your referral code, you got a free Tesla Roadster. They don't want to be building that right now if it means they're going to have to give away Teslas, right? Like, they don't have money for that.
Oh man, I feel bad for whoever's the chief legal officer at
Yeah.
Tesla trying to weasel out of that one. All right, Justin, let's call it a show for today. We'll be back on Friday, which I'm very excited about. Thanks for running us through everything that has to do with EV trucks. I learned more today than I ever thought I would. And quite frankly, I also learned that there's a lot of people who want EV trucks and not a lot of EV trucks to be had. Can't believe that stat that you shared at the beginning. 1.5 million reservations, 3,000 on the road. That is insane. Truly insane.
Yeah, and make sure that everyone out there joins the YAA community at joinyaa.com. Not only do we have an electric vehicle forum, we have all different kinds of forums to make sure that you have the expert advice you need to help you buy a car in 2022's crazy, ridiculous market. And please send us your questions, your comments, things you'd like to know in upcoming episodes.
Thanks as always, Justin. I'll see you later on today and look forward to Friday.
Peace.